The iHemp Hour is brought to you by Down on the Farm hemp seed oil. Better eggs, better fries through hemp. Get yours at downtothefarm.biz. Dave Crable with iHemp Michigan. iHemp Michigan's mission is to educate, inform, and promote the research, development, and cultivation of industrial hemp in Michigan. iHemp Michigan advocates for wellness in people and the planet through hemp, and it begins with the farmer. Right now, we're going to go to Mike Brennan with some 420 news.
Well, actually, hemp news. Good news, in fact, for the industrial hemp farmers. The USDA has approved the plan that was submitted by the Michigan Department of Ag and Rural Development so that it complies with the 2018 Farm Act. Um, and so going forward now, from my understanding, and I know Blaine will know more about this than I, that means that the regs will be simulating or at least conforming to the federal regs. Is that right, Blaine?
Yeah, yep. We'll be having a next week's show. We're going to have some great guests on about that. MDART's going to be on to give us all the fine details in and out of that, Mike.
All right, great. So that's definitely good news. I know we've had a couple of shows where we're waiting to hear from the USDA, and now the verdict came down on Tuesday, and so now I think you wanted to add a few things to that too. Are you saying that some folks are going to be on next week, but anything else you wanted to add? I think something about a November 30th deadline.
Yeah, there's a couple things that are going to change here with the new program. We won't go into too much of that this week, but one of the things we should make you all aware of is that, again, make sure you're checking your emails because that's the way MDART's going to be giving out a lot of information on this. But yesterday in the mail, I received my hemp grower registration renewal application. And I know Dave said he had gotten his as well. So those have been sent out. If you haven't got it from MDART, then you might want to follow up with that in a week or so and find out. The big thing is that you got to make sure you renew by the November 30th date. Otherwise, there is a late penalty on that of $250. So this year, the price is going up to $12.50 for grower registration. I don't know about anything about the processing fee yet for sure, but we think it's the same price as last year at this point. So those are some of the fun news that have come out this week, Mike.
Yeah. All right. So, do you have anything else but you want to add there, Blaine?
Yeah, I do. We got quite a bit of things I'd like to share with everybody today. The first thing we want to talk about is a little bit of kind of downer news, but the rest of it's all going to be good after that. So I get an email called Hemp Today. It kind of gives a lot of international news, and CBD classifies as a narcotic in Italy with the products ordered off the market. Under the recent decree issued by the Ministry of Health, CBD was officially added to the current list of medicines. The move sets up an apparent conflict with an Italian following separate recent decree from the Agriculture Ministry that listed hemp flower for extraction uses as an agricultural product and not a drug. Now, part of this is all being played out because there's a company over in the UK that makes a drug called Epidiolex, and they're trying to get that approved to be able to use it in the markets over there as a medicine. So maybe that's something has to do with the play behind that whole thing, but just a little news there. That's what they're doing. The situation in Italy comes amid recent ominous signals in the European Union regarding CBD and other hemp extracts. The European Commission earlier this year issued a preliminary conclusion that hemp extracts, including CBDs, are to be considered narcotics, while European stakeholders who were blindsided by the EC decision last July are known to be pushing back against the Commission's conclusion. There's been little indication so far they're having any success. European hemp interests have said if the EC does not change its position on extracts, it could have drastic negative effects on the CBD sector and the hemp industry overall in the UK and in Europe. So just a little bit of news from there going on. As far as the market reports, things are pretty well just the way they are on that. No real big changes in the last couple of weeks going on that. We do want to talk a little bit about the expo. We're really making great progress on that. The Radisson Hotel is going to be the hotel to use. It's going to be a pared down version from what we had last year, unfortunately, because of the restrictions we have. We can only have 500 people at the Lansing Center. So we are going to have exhibitors, and we're also going to have live attendees that want to come to it. We're going to have 2 days of great lineup of speakers going on. So we're really great there. Plus, well, a couple weeks after that, we're going to make what we have available from the show, plus much more content available on a virtual platform for everybody. So we're really excited about planning that. One of the things I do want to let you know is going to be a fun event that we're going to have this year is we're going to have something called the Hempy Awards, the Midwest Hempy Awards. We've got a number of topics that we're going to, not topics, but categories that you can enter in. More detail will be coming out soon, but we're going to have photos. People can put photos in. People can put food. People can put personal products, stuff for pets, miscellaneous category, an innovation award category. So there'll be a nice little cash award and a nice little trophy everybody gets. And then one of them, we will also have the People's Choice Award. So look for more information on that. If you make or sell any kind of CBD or hemp products, you can certainly enter this. We'll have the miscellaneous category will cover anybody outside of the Midwest area, but the main categories are going to be for Midwest people. So Midwest is going to be Ohio, Indiana, Illinois, Wisconsin, and Michigan. That's what we're considering the Midwest area. So we're really, really excited to be coming forward with this and doing this. And this year's going to be more business to business, more than business to consumer, just because we have such numbers. Last year we had over 1,200, and this year we can only have 5. So look for more information coming out on that real soon. And we're pretty excited to be able to offer, again, a high quality program for everybody to be able to attend in January. It's going to be January 22nd, which is a Friday, and 23rd, which is a Saturday.
Might mention also there's a survey going out because I received a copy of it a couple of days ago. So we want folks to fill that out to see what level of participation they want and other things like that, right?
Yes.
Yeah, that's very helpful. Thanks for bringing that up, Mike.
Yeah, thanks for reminding us on that, Mike. That is important. We would like your feedback on that so we can make sure we plan the right event for everybody. So, and Dave, that's all I have right now.
All right. For joining us, we have Craig VanBuren from the Michigan Department of Agriculture, the Geagley Lab, and overcome some technical difficulties. We're with our new system. There's always another wrinkle, another thing to learn. So how you doing, Craig?
Real good. How are you?
Good. Did you want to, kick things off? I have your video all queued up, the tour of the lab. That's really cool that you guys were able to do that. What do you want to cover first?
Sure. I mean, we can jump right into the video and go from there.
All right. Well, let's do that. I'm going to share this and get that going. Oh, hold on. I'm going to stop my share.
Our procedure on testing industrial hemp.
I've got to share and hit that little button to share audio.
So the second step.
If we had a real producer.
Hi, I'm Elizabeth. Today we want to walk you through our procedure on testing industrial hemp.
No paycheck for this week. How's that?
Oh man.
So the second step of our testing process is to take the sample that was delivered and get it ready and prepped for the oven. Okay, so now the samples that came out of the oven are back in our lab, and we're gonna let these come to room temp. So it'll take a little bit for those to cool before we grind them down. That'll be our next step. So this is good enough. Those sticks aren't going to go anywhere. We'll just work around them. Here's our sample container so that it can be kept dry. And we just fold it and dump it in. Get as much as you can. Okay, so now we know that our moisture of our sample is less than 15% moisture content. We're ready to weigh it out. So we're going to put in 0.2 grams.
That's quite a shaker you got there.
So our sample was shaken, and now it's settled down for 5 minutes after we took it out of the Geno grinder. And now we're ready to run it through a filter. So I'm going to take a little of the suspension or the extract off the top and fill up this disposable syringe. There we go. That's just shy of 2 mLs. Now we're ready to take it down for analysis on the GC FID.
My name's Tom Geagley. I'm a lab scientist. Right now I'm going to put on the samples that were extracted in the other room, running it on an instrument called a GCFID. It's a gas chromatography with a flame ionization detector. It will be able to detect the THC, THCA, CBD, CBDA, and CBN. The whole purpose of what we're doing here is to verify that the hemp product that was brought in does not exceed the legal limit. Then it can be considered industrial hemp, and it can be used for harvested and then used for whatever its intent was for.
All
I
right.
don't know how that was for others, but it was super choppy on mine, and I missed a whole bunch.
Oh, did you really?
Yeah, it might just be my connection.
Yeah, I think
It was a little choppy on mine, but not too bad in the beginning, and then it was all right for that.
It will be available on our YouTube channel, so people can go check it out there.
okay.
Of course, as a very, very condensed version of what we do, so that we wouldn't lose viewers' attention.
Yeah, no, that was great. Yeah, thank your staff for doing that in such a short notice. They really pulled it off. So
Absolutely, yeah. We love to show off what we do. We would have loved to have people in for tours, and hopefully eventually we will be able to do that again. But right now we just can't have any visitors in there.
mhm. We do have a question that came out of that. Why GC and not HPLC?
GC is what we developed our method on, and during that time, of course, it converts all the THCA to THC, which is a requirement of the interim final rule. So it automatically, we ensure that we get full decarboxylation. And if we do find something high, we actually do a confirmation test on all high samples on our LC. And then we have not seen any difference between the two.
So for the rest of us that have no clue what you guys are talking about, thank you, Kristen Lee. What's GC and what's HPLC?
So GC is gas chromatography, and LC is basically liquid chromatography. So in the gas, it superheats the sample that's inside there and does the conversion. The heat converts all the THCA to THC.
Okay, so she was asking if the GC would inflate the THC percent. So if it converts it all, it probably would. I don't know if you would term that inflate, but it just exposes all of it.
Right, yeah, it converts it all. And when we do run LC, of course, we get the 2 THC and THCAs, and we have to use the formula, the 877, I believe it is, 0.877 THCA, and then add that to the THC, and we get the same result when we do it that way.
Okay.
So this just eliminates a step. It's a great big machine. We can run over 100 samples at a time through it, which we like to do to try to keep costs down so we can be efficient and get it all done as soon as we can.
Greg, let me ask on the THC levels. I know you tested last year, you're testing this year. Are they the same? Are they going up? Are they going down? Because everyone's worried about getting a hot crop, right?
Right, exactly. Yeah. So right now we've done 780 samples this calendar year, and we're just slightly lower in compliance than we were last year. Right now we're about 82% compliant. We have seen some, I guess they're about the same. We saw up to 8%, I think, last year. This year we've seen up to 22% THC in at least one sample.
Whoa.
Not sure what happened there. But overall, it's pretty much the same, I think.
They meant to send that to the other lab, I'm sure.
I think so, right? Exactly.
I don't think that's hemp anymore, huh? So
I don't think so. And I just want to make sure that I let everyone know that the growers this year have done a tremendous job of getting a hold of us, getting things scheduled, being on time to get their samples in. doing what they need to do, making sure all their paperwork is complete. And since we are on campus, as soon as they step out of their car, they have to have a mask on so that they don't get a ticket by campus police. And everyone's just done a great job of that. So this year has gone very, very well.
Excellent. Excellent.
So Craig, when you send back the samples, you give us the THC reading and the CBD count, but obviously you must be able to give more. So if a grower wanted to use your services there to get different parts of the test, maybe pesticides or chemicals or things like that, are you able to do that with your test you do right now, or is it a different test that has to be done? Or?
Those are actually done at a different part of our building on different instruments. So yeah, those would be different tests. We could offer those, but I don't think we can meet the cost that they can get it done at a private laboratory at this point.
Okay.
I mean, I think a lot of the private laboratories are looking for a very finite set of pesticides. I believe it's somewhere under 30. And when we run ours, our machine takes a lot longer. We're checking for over 300 different pesticides. So it's a lot more complicated process that we're doing.
Can you do stuff for food as well too? If people are going to make with this hemp product into different food stuff, can you do that as well? If they want.
We could develop methods. We have not yet. One of the issues is there are just so many different types of matrices, right? It could be who knows what kind of food. And we almost have to develop methods and validate those methods for each different type of thing we would see. So we'd have to have a method for gummies and a method for brownies and a method for tinctures and whatever salves it may be. So we'd have to validate each one of those, which we may eventually get into if that's something that's desired, that is that there's a void in the industry you can't fill themselves.
Mm-hmm.
We have another question too. It says, is there a strain you're seeing that is testing hot more often? The comment is that I've seen cherry wine testing hot in Indiana.
Let's see. Not, it's a pretty good mix at this point. I do see a lot of cherry wines, cherry blossoms in there that have been high this year, but nothing consistent.
Yeah, there's probably more of that growing anyhow. The cherry wine's been kind of a go-to for a lot of
Exactly.
people.
Yeah, we see that is by far the largest cultivar that we saw last year, and I think it's going to be the same way this year also.
Would you have information as far as geography? Are there certain areas where you see it going more hot than others?
I do have that, but I've not mapped it out at this point.
Yeah, we looked at that last year. That was interesting.
Yeah, we're having a little bit of trouble with mapping GPS coordinates that we're being given. Not everyone gives them exactly the same, and not all of them are exactly right. So
yeah. Well,
we'll really look forward to that information when you can share that, and get a confirmation back that MDART will be participating in the expo in some fashion. So we'll certainly look for that information from you for sure. So
okay, I definitely can put something together on that.
Yeah.
So with the new testing requirements coming out, that now that MDART's going to have to do this now, this might not be in your wheelhouse, but I think you guys have been doing a great job getting everything out, getting everything back, and timely to everybody. I haven't heard really any complaints on that so much. Do you see any issues going to come forward with this new regulation and having to test that way?
As far as testing, no, it'll just be scheduled through a different party. I think that'll be the only difference. And so scheduling will be about the same as long as you're calling 15 days ahead of time to get your scheduled test or scheduled sample pickup. Then that they will also coordinate with the laboratory, pesticide and plant pest management division will coordinate with us to say, all right, these are the ones we're going to sample, and these are when you can expect to have them be brought in. So really, I think the biggest change will just be the division that actually schedules it now.
Because it's going to be the state coming out to take the samples in the field, right, for the testing?
Correct. Yes.
Yep. And that is that going to happen in December? Because I know the new rules take place December 1st. It's not likely anyone's going to have anything in the field at that point, I would think.
Yeah, starting December 1st, yep. If any other growers have samples that need to be taken, we would have to come out and do it at that time. So yes. As we start getting towards the end of November, we'd want to know ahead of time whether or not people are going to need that service, and so we can coordinate with the other division.
my advice, everyone get everything off the field right away. You know, it's, I mean, it's
That
time.
would be my advice also. Yeah,
Yeah.
I think last year we only had probably 4 or 5 that came in December.
Oh, really? Really? Wow.
Yeah, but we also, we received, half a dozen in
Yeah.
January, February, March, April also, people with greenhouses, I believe. So
Yeah.
they do come in continuously throughout the year.
Okay, because I met there's a lot of indoor grow, something like 3 million square feet or something like
Yes,
that.
quite a bit. Right.
Mhm.
Right.
Nancy's asking a question, Greg. Could Geagley give us the results of all the cannabinoids? Seems that you do get those results from our samples. Could you please include those in our reports?
So yeah, we're just looking at the very tight band of THC and CBD. So those are the only 2 peaks we see on our results, and CBN to look for degradation. So we're not looking at that full spectrum, just so we can narrow in and be more precise on those, particularly the THC area. So we do not get results for any of the other cannabinoids outside of those 3.
Yeah, so we have to use an independent lab for those kind of results. So basically, right. I would think everyone, you should look for an independent lab to get your final COA, after everything's done. The state test is prior to harvest. After you harvest, get your COA for, you're selling your crop, and might probably be a better way to go. I would think those cannabinoids, as it dries and matures, that that could actually go up. Everything could go up after harvest date, couldn't it?
I would think so, yeah. But as I continuously tell people, once you get your approval, regardless of what happens in those 2 weeks after, I mean, you have an approval to harvest, and your crop is approved by us. So as long as you get it done within 15 days, the crop is still good.
But some people are running into problems where, okay, so they've gotten their tests, they've harvested, and cured for smokable flower in particular, and then they're marketing the smokable flower, and if it goes over that 0.3%, now they have a whole different compliance issue.
Right. Yeah, and that's on the regulatory side. I'm not sure how that's going to be dealt with. That's Gina's section. Maybe she can talk to that next week. But that's absolutely true, right? When we get samples, we're getting all the biomass, but when they're doing flower, they're doing trimmed, just the trimmed flower, right? So of course you're not getting the leaves and the stems mixed in that actually can bring down the THC content for our testing. So yeah, I don't know how basically all of the U.S. is going to deal with that issue. I mean,
yeah, we just need to legalize it. It's a crop. Don't be afraid of it.
Right.
Yeah.
Richard tells a little story. They're Signet Keys. They sampled 41 hemp farms in Illinois. And part of their procedure is to walk the 4 corners of the field and check it out against the license. In one case, the farmer tried to divert us to a different field. The real one tested hot.
Oops.
Yeah, it'll be interesting. Well.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting when we actually get our inspectors out there in the field to see what they see or hear what they see.
So Nancy's coming back. She heard you say that the lab has those numbers and the CBD, CBN, that kind of stuff.
We just have the CBD, THC, CBD, and CBG, or CBN.
No, there's
I think it's CBN. It's the one that degrades from THC. I think that's what, CBN.
I could pull up my test. I've got one right here.
But we don't.
Excuse
me, we just put
and let's say they find a different cannabinoid that really is really something that they want to try to have and know what that amount is. Would it be possible for the lab then to include other cannabinoids in there if we needed it or wanted it?
I think so, if it's within that narrow band, that we look at, so we don't have to look across a wide scope. But that is a possibility. I mean, and what's the latest craze now, right? Delta 8. So that'd be something we have to start honing in on here pretty soon too.
Any other questions? Do you know, this is from Eric, do you know any labs in Michigan or elsewhere that have shown that their analysis are highly correlated with your lab's results? So when growers use independent labs for preliminary testing, they have high confidence that the crop will remain compliant.
Yeah, so I've not seen any other like split sample comparisons to be able to give that data. But what I do hear, like you mentioned, is people are sending in just a different type of sample to these other labs to get their final profile. And those you really can't compare because you're looking at a dried trim product versus whole biomass that's sent to us. If someone wanted to do that project and sent biomass to those labs, basically split their sample themselves, then we'd be able to do that. But right now we don't have that data.
Okay, any other questions we've got out there from anybody? So Craig, what do you see going forward? What do you want to add here? What do you see going forward? What do you see, how things are working?
I don't see as much change in how we go forward after November 30th. I mean, other than our inspectors grabbing the samples, as far as what we do, unless we have a high demand for another cannabinoid within that range that we could be able to provide without adding additional cost, because that's not something I would want to do. Then we may look at that route. Like I mentioned, the Delta 8 seems to be popular. There seems to be some talk out there with the DEA and everything, so that may be one we have to look at in the near future.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting. So I have my test. It was a CBG plant, so it's just THC and CBD is all I received on the test results.
Yes, that's all we're providing at this point.
Yeah.
So Craig, one of the things they talked about with the testing going forward is there'll have to be a deviation figure there. Do you know,
yes.
Have you worked on that for the lab yet or not yet?
Yes, so right now, I believe we're at 0.06% uncertainty. You saw there on Dave's, where we had the uncertainty on there. We did put those on a few of those. So that's what we'll be using for the 2021 growing season. So if your sample comes back at 0.36 or less, then you'll be good. Up until this point, had been using 0.9, basically been truncating at that second decimal point. So anything that was 0.39, we just chopped off at 0.3 and said it was good. So there will be just a slight deviation of 0.03%. Yeah.
When that tests hot, does your lab send out that letter to the growers, or is that done through another department?
That would be done through the other division, yes, through pesticide and plant pest management.
But you can retest up to 3 times, is that correct?
Up until November 30th.
Right.
After then our state plan that the USDA approved will take effect, and then you only get 1 shot.
So get that process going, boys.
I didn't know that. So you only get the 1 shot with that, huh? Oh.
Yeah, yep. Unfortunately, that the NM final rule said you get 1 test and it's pass or fail.
Well,
Make or break,
I think we're going
unfortunately.
to be working on that little problem.
As the non-farmer in this group, so I'm curious, when it does come back hot, then what? What does the farmer do? I know you guys can answer this.
It might be better for next week for
Sending in pulling another sample to see.
Yeah, well, I mean, after November 30th, I mean, if you only get 1 shot, like deer hunter, 1 shot. So, I mean, obviously farmers have invested a lot of money in their crop, and then what if they can't, sell it on a normal hemp level? Does this get plowed under? Or, I mean, both Dave and Blaine, you guys are farmers, you would know that. What I'm curious, what happens at that point?
Currently, there's no remediation available. It has to be destroyed, and they're, I think, plowing it under might be one of those options. I know many have offered to burn it, but
when the USDA plan first came out, you had to destroy the crop, and not only that, but under those rules, a third party had to destroy the crop. So much larger extent. So they now have allowed us to destroy the crop on the farm. And that could be plowing it under, burning. I think is one of them. I'm not sure about that one, but But some which you could go out and you could chop it with like a
Yeah.
brush dog, something like that. Depending on how you do it in the field. If you're growing on black plastic, you have a little fewer options than if it's like field plant kind of thing. On that.
Yeah.
And I think
It's a real problem with the industry. There's so much expense to grow it and harvest it to begin with, and now you're adding this other layer of risk. So we're going to see that, CBG is a safe variety to grow, and it still has a higher value, but as everyone switches to CBG, that's market value is going to go down. But grain and fiber, is ultimately the safer bet. There's genetics in Canada where they don't even test it anymore. We're not there yet, but it'd be safe, to grow those fiber and grain crops without fear of going hot.
Craig, in some of the other states, they have when we first started doing this, like Montana was one for sure. The seed commission, so to speak, came out and said, if you grow these varieties, we know these varieties aren't going to go hot. They've been good. Is there anything, talked about like that with, say, the Michigan coming out with any kind of list? Or?
Well, I think they are looking at putting together seed seller requirements to have some culpability on the seed seller part. So there's some possible ways for the grower to go back and recoup any costs. I don't know that going forward that the feds would allow that for like the other states who have had that in the past.
It was under their pilot program, so yeah.
Yeah. What we hope to have is a list, at least that says these are the ones that we're finding that are not good. So at least you have a little bit of information before you go out and start looking for places to purchase from.
Now, again, I'm sorry if these are ignorant questions, but this is a new area for me. If the crop is hot, can it be used, for instance, in hempcrete or anything non-consumable, products, or is it just you can't use it? Period.
Yeah, unfortunately, it's destruction is the only option.
It's an
That's really
evil, terrible thing. If it goes over 0.3, you have to be fearful of it and destroy it. It's just ridiculous. It's going to take a while to change people's minds. So
that's why, the big push really is to move this needle from a 0.3 to a higher level, a 0.1 kind of thing.
Yeah, make it a viable crop where we can, grow it and do some.
How many of your samples are going, besides the 122%? We'll throw that out as an anomaly.
Yeah, that wasn't a mistake.
How many of your samples are going over 1?
Oh, let's see here. I don't think it's a lot.
So hopefully with the comments that everybody made, got them in time for when USDA had their opportunity to comment. But y'all put something in on that, and I know when I put mine in, I put 3%. I said let's just go for the higher amount here. So
yeah.
Of those 780, 32 have been over 1%.
32.
Yeah. As opposed to 140 plus.
Yeah. So.
And it seems like once you get over 1, then they start jumping up pretty quickly. 1, 2, 3, 4, 22.
Yeah.
So Blaine, can you get crop insurance for that? Again, I don't know whether you can, but I'm just curious. If your crop goes hot, can you get insurance for that?
There's no insurance available right now that covers if a crop goes hot. Matter of fact, I'm actually doing 2 crop insurance claims because that's part of my business. I do crop adjusting, and one of them potentially has gone hot, and the policy states outright that if the crop goes hot, that's not a coverable insurance loss. If it gets destroyed by weather or animals or other things happen to it, yes, but if it goes hot, that's not covered under it. No.
Risky business.
Craig, what you have there, the ones that are going hot, again, can you tell if they're outdoor or indoor from your information there, or is that deeper?
I could. I will be able to in the future at the end of the growing season. I'll put another report together like I did last year. I can definitely add that in there.
Okay, yeah, that'd be great. That'd be nice to know.
I know that.
Maybe what we all got to learn a little bit is some different conditions outside of growing to maybe help that issue too.
I will say I do believe that when we were getting samples in January, February, March, I'm assuming that most of those were from greenhouses. We were about 50% hot of those.
Really? Wow. That's interesting. I'm trying to find, Clyde asked about the rule for destruction. I know it's in there, and I just can't find the doc. I'm looking for that doc right
And
now.
one of the things I was on the U.S. Hemp Builders or U.S. Hemp Builders Association meeting last night, and I don't believe, and I will ask this next week. So, pre-question for you guys: does decortication meet the requirement of destruction? And last night the comment was no, from the discussion we had on that. But I just want to know if that would work. Just taking the crop and just decorticating it would render it useless as far as the CBD or the smokable part of it.
Yeah, it's frustrating the rules we have, but imagine, in Europe, their CBD products are made from stalk and seed. They're not allowed to use a flower. And I think that's might have changed recently, but I interviewed someone from Canaway, and they were processing in Northern Europe, and you can use a flower? No, you can't use a flower. It's like, well, yeah. But so imagine trying to produce CBD from stalks and seeds.
I got a question.
Is there
People can
CBD
comment
even
too in the
seed?
chat. I got this from the other day from an iHemp member. We were talking on the phone, and if you've had any issue of theft in your crop this year, maybe just put a comment in the chat that yes or no kind of thing if you're a grower. I've seen some stuff on social media, where we've got people going in. The unfortunate part of this is that the response that they got from the police about it. They called right away because there's people in the field, and it took 45 minutes to get there. And when they got there, they weren't real interested in pursuing the matter. So, just one of the things we may need to address still going forward on this product.
Yeah, I've received 2 or 3 calls of people who've had their crop stolen or portions of it stolen. So they are calling, I have the call center as well within my division. So those people are calling us, and we're routing those over to Gina Alessandri for notation.
Okay.
Yeah, it's
Is that, before I open Pandora's box here, is that something that you'd like growers to do? Call in with that information if they want to supply that? Or?
I believe in the previous act it was required. I don't recall in the new act if that is a requirement or not.
Okay. If they hadn't,
Be a good question for Gina next week.
Kind of thing.
yeah.
Yeah, the only thing, my suggestion, right, put bigger signs up, not marijuana.
Yeah.
Well, the problem is what they're doing is they're stealing it because in some cases it looks very much and smells very much like the marijuana, so they're just passing it off. And what's the sad part is that if they just go talk to the grower would probably sell them the plants at a pretty reasonable price, and they wouldn't have to be out there stealing and worry about jail time and all the other stuff.
Sure.
Well, what a lot of the cannabis folks will do in the black market is blend in that hemp with the cannabis so that they get a higher weight and make more money. That's kind of what's going on in that space.
Mm. Yeah.
Well, we need Richard's system in place so that people can scan the product and then they'll know whether it's CBD or not, I guess.
Yeah, wouldn't that be nice?
Yeah, it would be.
Blaine,
So if
did you?
somebody steals your crop, Blaine, or steals part of your crop, is that covered under the insurance, or is that another one that's not?
I'll have to look that up, Mike. I know that for, again, for animals and that kind of stuff, deer or anything else might go and destroy those, but I'll look that up. I don't know if that's covered under the policy or not. It may be covered under your regular farm policy, like for grain or anything else you might grow, but I'll get an answer to that. I will.
Yeah, I'm kind of curious. Seems like some opportunities for some insurance companies because there seems to be a lot of gaps here in coverage.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Many challenges for these growers, right? Hopefully, things at least on our end as far as testing aren't going to change for next year, so that'll be good.
And I know it's not any different from people going out and stealing apples or other fruit or vegetables out of fields too, but this one just seems to have a little more problems with it, the people that are doing it. Mike, Dave, you were going to ask me something?
Did we address Eric Anderson's question? I know Craig wouldn't be able to answer that directly, but have we, that's one of the issues, is that we send a sample in for the state test, and this happened to me last year, and I sent samples into an independent lab, and I'm getting two totally different results. How do we find a lab that's going to track with the state process? I mean, that's one of the issues that, you know, guys want to know. You know, but I know from the state's position, you can't say, "Oh, use this lab." You know, I wouldn't expect you to say that.
Right. I would just try to, you know, if you do choose a lab or use a couple different laboratories, to try to get as close to the sample that you're pulling to send into our lab that you send to that lab also. I mean,
Yeah,
almost, you know,
there's a lot of variables
cutting
there.
right off the same plants. And, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Undried, I don't know if how many labs are accepting them wet right out of the field. That may be one of the issues.
And we're like, for your sample process, let's talk about that for a second. You know, so we have to take the top 2 inches, and depending on the size of the grow determines the number of plants you have to clip from. And then you just put that in a brown paper bag, and ideally put it in something where it won't be sniffed going through the, they have to make an appointment, and most guys are coming right to the lab with their sample.
Majority are dropping off.
Have you had a lot of issues with people mailing samples?
I don't know how many that have actually been mailed in, but we have had some issues with delays in getting the mail, like several weeks, you know, and it sits and it molds in the post office or FedEx or wherever it's being sent from.
So you would recommend that people just drop it off to be on the safe side?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, that way you don't have any hassles from the delivery company or, you know, delays.
Mm-hmm.
So I will say that I've been working with a company this year that they've been trying to develop a inexpensive on-farm kind of test, and have found that, and it only does THC, it doesn't do CBD and all the other stuff, and that's all they're trying to do, is just help everybody as they're growing. But those tests that we've been doing there, when we get the state test back, have been very close on the THC level.
Good. Yeah, I know there are a couple. There are a couple companies out there that are trying to develop quick tests for it. So hopefully they'll succeed and have another tool out in the field. I know there are some expensive options that they can choose to buy for themselves, but hopefully some of the things I'm seeing are a more cost efficient method for them to check. And if people right now want to try to compare, like I mentioned, I don't know if some of the private labs require that the product be dried. Our complete test method is available. If you just send me an email or get an email to me, I can send you that via FOIA request. The biggest thing is if you have to dry it, make sure you dry all of it together instead of trimming it down. And we dry at 200 degrees Fahrenheit for 2 hours. So that would replicate what we're doing in the laboratory. And we grind the entire sample down. So whether it's 3 buds from a small grow or 25 from a large, we grind all that together so we get a good homogeneous mix and then pick from different points out of that mix.
Okay.
I think we answered Clyde's, and so yeah, Eric will get some more answers on that next week, or Eric too, on that one question he had. And another test that's going on, of course, what will be very interesting when they share it is the database that they're doing with growers through MSU. They've been working with a lab out of Wisconsin, and that information will be available, I'm pretty sure, at the conclusion. It's actually live, so anybody that's in it can actually see it right now. So that'll be interesting to see those results as well, what they get for hot crops as well. Because they're using a lot of growers from the Midwest area are involved in that. So I'm looking forward to that information. But again, most grain and most fiber going down that road, we don't have a problem with that going hot that I'm aware of. Do you have how much grain? That's a good question. Have you had much grain or fiber come in this year for testing versus last year?
They don't tell us what they're growing for, so
okay.
We don't know.
you just get a variety and
I will say it does look like we have seen a lot more with lower concentrations of THC than we have in the past this year. So a lot of less than 0.1% that are barely detectable, and we have had a few that are zero detect.
Yeah, it's going to take a few years to get the right genetics, figure it out. I do have the rules here for destruction. So plowing, mulching, mowing, rendered irretrievable or not ingestible. Yep, so those are the rules.
Now, can you feed it to livestock or not?
No, you can't use it, period.
Okay.
It goes into the waste stream or back, carbon back into the
hey,
soil.
bring that back up again, would you, just for a second?
Yeah.
So you get 15 days to destroy it once you get the notice.
But you do get up until November 30th, you get 3 tries to get a good test. So
This year.
this year.
It'd be interesting if you could, if that mowing, shredding, deep burial portion could be looked at as decordation and used in the inner fibers.
That's what I was trying to see there. Maybe the shredding part would be that.
I won't speculate on that. I'll leave that for Gina to answer next week.
You'll stay in your lane.
Yeah, it does say or other biomass material. So I mean, do a little. If you haven't looked into hempcrete, look into it. It's really cool. We need a lot more buildings to hempcrete out on the West Coast these days. It does not burn.
Yeah, we'll have a great segment with U.S. hemp builders at the expo too this year.
Yeah.
They'll be sharing a lot of that great information.
Yeah, good things happen in those areas, and those are the safe lanes. The fiber and the grain.
Becky's sending me something here.
Oh, we got questions.
Oh, just some comments I think let's see, let me read through them. So Mary's saying the National Farmers Union also supports the 3%. Yeah, Mary, and that's why I put that in too. I figure if we go for 3, maybe we'll get 1.5. Okay. And Kim says they haven't had any theft, that's good, Kim.
Yeah, I see where Darren says he's got it overnight security. I was talking to Rusty last night about 11 p.m. last night. He was meeting his security detail the same people hit his crop 3 times, I think.
Early.
Yeah.
And I know another grower that's hired marijuana security operations. One of the guys Garrett Grady that spoke at our expo last year. They hired them to watch their crop over too. So Mary has a question here. Clarify sample size when it requests number of plants. Then it parentheses maximum 2.5 ounces. So is that the max you need, even if like 25 big heads would be more than 2.5 ounces, or how do you need that?
No, at this point we're not taking that in consideration. We want the full amount. I'm not sure how that 2.5 ounces got put into the act, but yeah, we want the full amount. Don't worry about trying to send us.
Don't worry about the weight. Okay.
Right. So there's a question about the microbial parameters for smokable hemp in there. At this point, there are no other requirements that be tested. I would recommend it to cover yourself, make sure you're not making anyone sick. Again, that is another part of the act that they hope to work on over the course of the next year for anything that's ingestible, to put some more requirements in there to make sure people don't get sick from it or the product is safe.
So Scott responded to your question about laws. He said, vandalism is typically a cause of loss on a hail policy. On the multi-peril policy is not covered loss, but you might have an option to alter your insurable acres. What he's saying. So if you have a hail policy, it sounds like it may be covered for sure, but on the multi-peril, it's not.
All right. Very cool. I think it might be time for the hemper.
You think so?
Yeah.
Right. Any last questions, Greg? Any last comments you'd like to make?
No, it's been a great year. I appreciate all the cooperation we've had from the growers. Thanks for following the rules and making sure everything runs smoothly. We appreciate that, and hopefully it will go just as smooth next year once our inspectors start pulling samples themselves.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting. Mhm.
Yeah. And as I think it's been mentioned, get them in before November 30th will be the easiest for this year.
Yes. Yes.
Yeah, there you go. If you're an indoor grower, well, you got to do it when you got to do it, but otherwise, not.
Exactly.
All right. Well, okay.
Thanks,
So
guys.
it's that time of day again on the show. Here we go. So today we got a pretty easy recipe as well. I try to find something holiday, Halloween kind of related stuff, but everything really is just a takeoff on other things you do, and they just substitute either the hemp seed parts or the hemp oil or that kind of thing. So that's all kind of a bunch of fun things. But I wish Dave, can you find that cookie? That email I sent you with the cookie.
You emailed that to me?
If I didn't, I'll describe it now. But
Yep.
if you can find that'd be great for visual.
Yeah, give me a minute and I'll pull it up.
So today we have lime cashew cookies. This recipe makes 8 large cookies. So my theory is I would increase this by doubling it. But so you have a cup of dates pitted, a quarter cup of raw almonds, quarter cup of raw cashews, 2 teaspoons of lime juice, and the zest of 1 organic lime, they say here, and a quarter cup crushed hemp seeds, or just the hemp seeds hearts themselves. Because if you put the seeds in there and not the hemp hearts, it's going to be kind of crunchy a little bit. So you combine the first 5 ingredients in your food processor using coconut oil or water on your hands. Remove the mixture from the blender and roll into little round balls. The round balls is crushed cashews or the hemp seeds coating. I would use a hemp seeds coating. Press them down in a cookie or leave them in the round shape. If you like them, enjoy. And they say put them in the refrigerator for a little while to cool them down a little bit on that. And I got this recipe from activevegetarian.com is where I got that from. So one of the fun ones I saw this last week, and Dave's trying to find it, but it's a round sugar cookie, if nothing else. And you put 2 M&Ms for eyes, and then you take the icing and you put the mask. You make the mask out of the icing on it. So that was the cute one that I saw this week. So
Yeah, I'm not
can
finding
I find it? Okay.
No.
All right. Any other? Thanks, Craig, for everything. It's great information as always, and we'll really look forward to your tabulation of when you get all that in, and we'll be able to share that with us. We appreciate that.
Absolutely. Yeah. Thanks for inviting me.
Yep.
Craig, did you put your contact information in the chat? I don't have my glasses on, so.
I did not.
So next week it'll be a great meeting with Gina, and I believe Nathan's going to be on. They're going to talk about the USDA approval of our rules and how that's going to affect us moving forward as we go ahead. One of the things that you'll have to do, and I will try to have this ready for next week, is you do have to have a background check. And it's different than the chat one that we used to do. So it has to be FBI one. So there are a number of ways to do this. And the easiest way that I've heard, and I'm physically going to go do this next week, is you use a third-party source, basically. They call it channeler, and you use them to get your fingerprints into the FBI for the background check. You can actually once you get signed up with the channeler, then you can go to UPS stores. Check with your store. They do it. My one in Grand Haven does this, and they send your prints into the FBI for check. It costs $18 for the FBI, and it's probably another 30 or 40, but I don't know exactly the price to go through the channeler for that. But you get them done very quickly and back very quickly. If you do it through the mail and go to the police station, get them done and send them in, it's a much longer process, and I don't think you'll want to do that for getting your FBI back check. And I don't know exactly when that's required, but I'm assuming it needs to be with the application if you send in for your grower's registration this year. So
yes,
we'll have additional information about that for next week. Looks like you got some, which is great. All right. Anything else for the good of the cause, guys?
No, sir. Yep.
All right.
Thanks, Craig. Appreciate you taking the time.
Okay.
you're
Thanks,
welcome.
everybody. We'll see you all
Good
next
seeing you.
week.
Take care.
See you next week.
Peace and love.